All right. And I'm going to share my screen. Give me a minute, please. Can everybody see?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Great. All right. So this was one of the more conversational, interesting topics that we were discussing because we are talking about the bedrock of digital transformation, which is going to create the maximum impact in our lives, which is continuous learning. We covered the concepts, the definitions. We had just started scraping the surface of various technologies available today to impact our lives as trainers and to also add benefits and so much more to the life of the learners. So we will go by the regular format. It's a Sunday. I'll try to keep it light and crisp. We will not go into too much detail. One of the things that I also wanted to mention, which I keep mentioning, but I don't mind repeating, the material that we look on the slides, most of it is already in your textbook. Are we going to go through every line, every chapter? Not really, because some of it is something that you can read, enjoy, and learn, and it is an expansion of the concepts. What I try to do with the slides, and that's why the number of slides are very less, is to kind of capture the gist of the concept so that we can talk about it. And then I leave it to you to go ahead and read the expanded material which is available with you. That's the approach I have been taking. And those who've been following the lectures would see that most of the material is there in the book in a much more expanded form. What we cover in the classroom is primarily the concepts. The reason why I'm calling this out today, especially is there are multiple topics that are available in today's chapter, which all of you know, like the back of your hand. For example, I don't really need to define e-learning for you. So I'm not going to go into the definition of e-learning or definition as to how machine learning or artificial intelligence works. What I'm going to focus on is how you can use it to all these tools to your advantage. So this is going to be not instructional. This will be more of conversational and experience based so that you can have a realistic look at what is the technology available and how I can use it to my benefit. With that statement, I would say it's a copyright statement. I'm just moving forward and showing you, just to give you a recap as to what else we have already covered. We had covered what is continuous learning. We spoke about strategy. We spoke about culture. We did spend quite some time on the culture slide. We then talked about technology trends. We also spoke about how we can put together continuous learning practices along with technology and what benefits we can get. Now let's get into the fun part. We are going to talk about latest technology concepts available. We are going to briefly cover chatbots, what benefits they get, how we can use them to our advantage. We are also going to talk about gamification, the 4 levels of gamifications. You don't go all in with gamification. There's 4 levels and you can choose which level you would like to utilize at what stage based on what your learners' requirements are. Then we are going to talk about impact of technological advancements on continuous learning. We will spend some time on e-learning and we will have a brief conversation about some other elements like psychology of learning, interactivity, quotient of various learners, etc. So let's jump into it. We are going to talk about something called artificial intelligence. Is there anybody here in the group who has not heard about artificial intelligence? Anybody? Nobody, right? Everybody has an idea about what AI is. Fantastic. So let me pause the share and let me hear from all of you. What does artificial intelligence really mean for you? Anyone wants to take a stab? There are no right or wrong answers.
Ma'am, is it about the the process which learns and then responds what the next set of questions or the query the end user would have, say maybe like Google or YouTube's. So they use this primarily for the users, or like the Google Assistant or the chat box, because then one set of questions lead to a different set of questions pertaining to specific domain, and then the interaction is like enhanced.
Right. Right. Yes, partially correct.
Yes.
See,
And
artificial intelligence is sea of information. What you have spoken about is one of the aspects
Yes.
where a machine learns with a certain set of questions and it keeps refining the responses. So you are right that there are many more things which we will be displaying on the screen. And even honestly speaking, when I was researching this, I got to know so many details. Even I didn't know so much. So I'm going to make a confession here. So anyone else?
Yeah, madam, is it interacting with the technology
Yes,
in
it is
different form?
interacting with technology just like another human being, right?
Yeah.
Lovely, lovely, and very simple explanation. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Madam, is it, I've heard somewhere artificial intelligence somewhere has even been called assisted intelligence. This, by using the word artificial, it all looks artificial about it. So that's one more aspect. And I also want to know that now that it's been in the arena for a reasonably long time, have there been instances where AI has actually misguided or misled people, or has it been deliberately used to mislead the learners?
Yeah, we can talk about it later. Now, let's first get some reactions about what AI is. I just want to get the group going.
it's a replacement of human being at some point of time when people are not available, right? Then machine can answer in some FAQs.
Okay. Well, human beings, I really hope to God that we are not replaced, but then then it will become a Terminator kind of a movie.
Yeah, but in my experiences, I found human beings also being assisted in especially in chatbots also. In some point of time, probably it's not there in human being, or a machine and robots might do with the technology.
Yeah. Yes, on a very serious note, yes, it's very much possible in the future. Any other ideas, any other thoughts that come to your mind?
It is basically to help the human beings to take the decisions, and how making it machines how the particular process is being done, so that machine is get familiarized with that, and machine itself gives some kind of suggestive ideas so that human being can select that. So it is to help the taking decision making.
Yes, definitely. Come on, ladies.
It ultimately boils down to the customer experience and the customer satisfaction. Right.
So you are saying that the customer experience is enhanced?
Yes.
Okay. Great way to look at it.
Also, the processes which are monotonous. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Also, the processes which are monotonous in nature and which could be where not much of intervention is required, or
Manual.
could be avoided using the human interaction. Could be avoided with the artificial intelligence-led processes.
Automation will largely be something that we can use artificial intelligence for. I'm so sorry. Somebody else was also saying something. Can you go ahead, please?
Yes, I would just like to add that, machines can use analytics to make intelligent decisions. For example, based upon the my search history, the kind of shopping I'm making online. So the machine will automatically suggest me, provide me suggestions. The kind of reels I watch on Facebook. So I automatically, get similar suggestions and movies to watch. So it's beyond the machine mind, and it has added certain kind of human intelligence to it.
So it basically recommends more of things that you have looked at, and it is used most widely and commonly by applications to provide you notifications of more of things that you've seen and related things, right? So wonderful inputs. And I was wondering someone would come up with this one, that if you see and search things, you will start getting notifications similar to those. So, okay, thank you for your reactions, guys. Now, let me also, before I begin to share again, let me also talk a little bit about, and I'm just taking myself as a reference point. When I started reading about artificial intelligence, it's way after my time. Okay, so I was in the middle of my career already when artificial intelligence started gaining traction. It was around, but the gaining traction happened, and I think the maximum amount of traction we saw during the pandemic, people utilizing it, leveraging it for all their requirements, and not only trainers, but trainees also. So I used to get confused when I would look at the various terms associated with artificial intelligence. If you see youngsters, they talk about machine learning, they talk about deep learning, they talk about multi-neuron networks. I used to find all of this very confusing as to where do these pieces and puzzles fit in, for my understanding. So when I started reading more about it, I realized that for the sake of an example, if I had to say that artificial intelligence can be considered as one huge umbrella under which all the various subsets of machine learning, speech enhancement, vision enhancements, robotics, automations, planning, digitization, planning and optimizations, expert systems, all these elements that people talk about, they're written about in blogs, they're linked in articles, and various things about, they're all actually under the umbrella of artificial intelligence. Having that sense gave me a lot of comfort in navigating this space. So I did search the internet a lot to get that comfort to all of you. And this is something that I found on the internet. And I thought that this would be a great graphic for all of us to look at. If you see on the right-hand side, there's artificial intelligence, which very simply breaks down that any technique which enables computers to mimic human behavior can be classified as artificial intelligence. Now, if you see beyond that, we have a subset called machine learning. Subset of AI techniques which use statistical methods to enable machines to improve with experiences. And even beyond that, if you look at the smallest subset, is deep learning, which is itself a subset of machine learning that allows computation of multi-layer neural networks feasible. Now, many of you might be getting jitters. Oh my God, we now need to learn all of this artificial intelligence, machine learning. The answer is no. We are trainers. We are not software programmers. Our job is to utilize the technology available to us to enable learning journeys. So we do not have to go into details of what artificial intelligence is, how does it operate, what is a neural network, what is the difference between a single layer neural network, multi-layer neural network. All of this is available for study. You can go ahead and read about it. There's nobody stopping you. Is it relevant for your trainer journey? The answer is no. For you, artificial intelligence is going to help me. How do I utilize and manipulate the tools in my favor should be the end objective, right? And I'm making it clear on the screen because when people see these terms on the screen, specifically, they tend to get jitters that we do not know all of this. Now we have to go into technical training. The answer is no. Okay, now let's look at the graphic on the left-hand side. And I really like this one. It kind of breaks down everything in such a simple way that people can put all the pieces together which constitute artificial intelligence. For example, the first item that you see under artificial intelligence is machine learning. And it shows the sub-elements of machine learning as deep learning and predictive analysis. We just read about what deep learning is. It's on the right-hand side. It is a subset of ML which makes computation of multi-layer neural networks feasible. Let me give you a very, very small tutorial on what really a neural network is. It is basically various nodes of intelligence which has been gathered by human behavior. When you lay them out in the form of a network or a mesh which is interconnected, it forms a neural network. Now, like somebody just said, that there is a set of questions which the responses to which gives more intelligence, and there is another layer of questions. So you can just think of it as a mesh of intelligence being created, finer and finer and finer, so that the outcomes can be more and more accurate. So there is an input layer where you are sending out a request, and then there is an output layer where the response is supposed to come. In between, there are various nodes. In case there are multiple nodes intermeshed with each other, they are called multi-layer neural networks. You're free to read more about it. That's how I understood it for my benefit. Going back to my left-hand side graphic, you also see that there are bots which talk to us. They just don't respond on the machine. They also talk to us. So there is speech. There is text to speech and speech to text. And all of us are pretty familiar with these tools now. In fact, in Microsoft Office, there is a dictate tool. There are various kinds of softwares available in the market. For example, we are having this lecture. The software can listen to me and transcribe my entire session. It's as simple as that. So those softwares are also available. Imagine the dictaphone. How many of you have heard about the dictaphone? Give me a show of hands. Yeah? Okay. Okay. What does a dictaphone really do? It listens to, so you can record your sessions, or you can record your thoughts in case you are going through a brainstorming and you have various thoughts, you are on the road and you would like to record those thoughts. Dictaphones used to be most convenient. You could later on go ahead, play back, and you can write down your notes. They were useful for long meetings. Yes, please.
Ma'am, question.
Yes.
You said dictaphones could record your thoughts without speaking, or just
speaking.
Okay.
Speaking. So you speak into your phone. For example, let me use a very silly example. Okay, I have this habit of forgetting things at times. So I know that I have to do this at 1 o'clock or this at 2 o'clock, and I would come and sit down and start working on my office stuff, and I would completely forget about it. There have been enough examples of my documents which were supposed to couriered, I forgot the packet, or somebody had to come to my place, I had to sign the person in, I simply forgot. So dictaphones help you. I use them to prepare my to-do list. Many people used to record meetings and come back home and create minutes of the meetings, long meetings, board meetings, annual reviews, financial meetings. So that is what dictaphone used to do. Now imagine we don't even need a separate device. We have so many features available in our phone, which is nothing but artificial intelligence to be able to transcribe a meeting. Yeah. Then there is vision, there is image recognition, there is machine vision. So there are, I mean, obviously you guys are very, very aware. You can now show your phone to a QR code. It can allow you go ahead to pay. It can also recognize a product that you have seen on the internet, and it will search for similar products. It's called image recognition, and Google does extensive work on image recognition in ensuring that similar images are tagged in a certain way. That's also a part of artificial intelligence. Then there is one of the biggest movements in intelligence in machines, and that's language processing, NLP. It allows for classification, it allows for translation, it also allows for data extraction. Thank you.
Madam, you talked about our mobile phones. Like if you have an image, you ask that Google, he matches it with something. I have seen many occasions where I have been, when I've clicked pictures, like I was actually looking for birds, over a long period of time. There have been many times when I've clicked a bird which was not very clear, and I've asked that Google to match it. It's come up with something absolutely unconnected. So
Hmm.
there I felt my own intelligence was very much required to rule out this advice.
Yes.
So that recognition was failing. Maybe the database is not big, but the point is it was completely different from a bird. It was looking like a bird sitting on a twig tree without any leaves, like a ghost image. So he likened it to a ghost. So
Hmm.
those things have also happened in this artificial intelligence.
Artificial intelligence is not accurate, and we have a long way to go. Like you rightly said, the database is small, the reference samples are some small, but please make note, the machines are expanding the database in nanoseconds.
Okay.
Because just like you, there are many other people who are going and clicking pictures and putting more and more and more and more and more information in exponential rate. So the database is expanding. Searches can sometimes come out with very inaccurate results. But that's the scope of improvement that artificial intelligence has to go. And that is exactly the word. Artificial is placed in front of intelligence because it, at least now, it has not been able to overtake human intelligence. And also there is a perception, feelings, associations that we have that machines have not been able to develop as much. For example, if you're looking for a bird, your recognizing features would be the limbs of the bird and the color of the bird, whereas for a machine, it's just a shape. And that is how it looks at it. And with more and more elements of artificial intelligence and deep learning being embedded, the search results have started to become more and more accurate. Have we reached there yet? Is it 100% accurate? Maybe not. But then there are Japanese, very, very highly sophisticated robots and programs which can give you search results that you will never be able to even fathom. So it is also the level of exposure of technology that we have commonly available free of cost. And then there is very high sophisticated artificial intelligence forums available, which are expensive, dedicated, and being developed for warfare. It is being developed for satellite imaging, which we don't get access to on the internet. We get a very small chunk of access.
Ma'am, you spoke about satellite imaging. I happen to be a satellite image analyst for almost 11 years. The good part that teach the basics are conceptual. That's what we are learning. AI was not so much there. Whatever image is there, they first ask you to interpret what it is sitting in the class. Then you do what is called ground truthing. You go on ground and see it. So in one such image here in Dehradun only, in Indian Institute of Remote Sensing, what we thought was looked like a palace. We defined it differently. When we went there, they were actually slums. They were actually Jopad Patti with black covered, black tarpaulin on top. It was an eye opener for me. And even after that, many years when I was practicing, I realized I never used to rely on these matching software because companies would try and come and try and sell them to you. I think I and many of my colleagues as image analysts would trust ourselves and we could find out things quite quickly and fast by consulting each other rather than depending entirely on the machine. Since you talked of military, this thing, I think we cannot take the risk of relying so much on AI. After all, comparison of satellite images, just that only. So your own ground experience matters a lot. So
Yeah,
this is
of
one
course,
thing
of
I'd like to
course.
share.
There is always an error percentage with which these software interpretations and analytics are taken into consideration. Major decisions are not taken only on basis of technological inputs. It is changing with drone warfare and everything else, where accuracy levels are spiking majorly. But like we say, in medical science, 99.9999999% accuracy also can result in 1.6 million deaths around the world. So that's the level of accuracy that is required when it comes to human lives. So of course, we will not be only depending upon machine inputs, but yes, but it does simplify life and does simplify manually mapping things as compared to just looking at database. It gives us a good head start. If you look at expert systems are nothing but connecting various information networks in a way that you get the response that you are looking for. There is planning and optimization. Somebody spoke about, I think it was Yogesh who spoke about getting rid of manual, repetitive tasks that can be taken care by a machine. So for example, you have 15 or 20 to-do items in a day. There's so many optimization softwares nowadays available, which can organize your day. It can organize multiple reports that are required to be extracted from the same data that is done every day in a much efficient and much more high accuracy and high efficiency measures. So all of that is used by artificial intelligence. Those are the gifts of artificial intelligence, that we are able to find out more creative time for creating bigger things for ourselves. And of course, there's robotics. I do not know how many of you have really used a robot, but let me ask that question. It can be fun. How many of you have actually used a robot? Can be the smallest form of a robotic intelligence in your homes. Anybody who has those home cleaning
Remote control
robots?
cars
Remote control cars, okay. Okay.
for children's.
Yes.
Then we use this one, our automatic room cleaners and all.
Room cleaners. I was just thinking
Yeah.
about it.
Yes.
How many of you have used the room cleaners?
I've only
They're
heard of
pretty
it.
good. They're
It's
pretty
good.
good, right?
It cleans
Yeah,
very
yeah.
well.
So there's this MI robo. It actually knows, if you map the space of the house, it actually knows where to stop. It also knows how to hop onto its original position. I don't know how many of you have seen it in action. My friend tells me that it's quite good, and I've seen at her place. I haven't used it personally. Any experiences anybody would like to
I
share?
have seen it in the YouTube
Okay.
videos,
Okay.
basically people
Uh-huh.
using it, and nowadays ads are also coming up for
Yes.
those. So
Yes.
quite efficient. And in fact, the videos which I have seen is cats sitting on that and they're roaming
Yeah.
around the house. So
Yeah.
it's quite fun to watch them. And yes, they are super intuitive.
They're super intuitive. There's motion sensors. There's so many things that they take care of. It's also kid safe. So in case there is a kid, it notices that there is a kid, it will not go near that area.
And the best part of iRobot, which I like, is that it
Uh-huh.
can map the size of the room and the area that has to be cleaned. And it
Yes.
follows the same route.
Yes. It follows the same route. You set it up, it will follow the same route. So
And
it's just,
they use some
robotics
kind of
in our life. Finally, it's touching our lives. Yes,
yeah.
please. Sorry.
I
Go
have
ahead.
seen like they use some kind of a laser technology to know
Yes.
what are the objects in front of them where he has to stop.
Yes.
So some infrared video was there. So I
Yeah.
could actually see the lasers they were using.
Yes.
Uh,
It just
to-
basically realizes whether it's a solid surface, so it doesn't ram into it.
right.
So that's the
Interesting.
least. It's
Interesting.
very interesting, and that's the least bit of robotics that we see in our lives. If you see Western movies, there's so many things that have now come up where people are actually using full-size robots. Full-size robots servicing around the house and doing basic tasks. In China, it's very popular. Even in Japan, we've seen quite a few different kind of robots which serve food. I was looking at YouTube. There is
There
this
are
robotic arm. Yeah, go ahead, please.
And there are these pet, that
Yes.
pet robots, which are very popular in Japan for elderly people.
Yeah. Keeps them entertained.
It's
Because
like,
otherwise they get bored.
yes, keep them occupied, and it's like you are interacting with any other living being.
Yes.
You have that affection. It's the time for them to eat. In fact, Japan invented a very small pocket-size baby robot, which would require food. So there was the feeding time,
Wow.
and the total duration was around 20-30 days. I had it
Wow.
long back, but it was
Okay.
fun playing with that.
Okay.
It would keep you occupied like a mother taking care of the baby. It would beep in the
Yes.
night time, so it's time to feed. So it was a very like very innovative thing, to keep people more occupied in a very positive way.
Yes. Then I saw a couple of robotic arms doing repetitive tasks. And I keep coming back to Yogesh because he's the one who first said it. In Singapore, they're doing this egg sandwiches, which are happening totally automatically. Okay. So the egg gets broken, it gets poured, it gets into a box after the omelette is made, and it gets packed and it gets delivered. Not a single human being is touching the machine. All that is required is the input ingredients and everything gets done. Yeah.
And the
And in
same
case, yeah,
thing,
and it is just not conveyor belts, just like many people can argue, you know, we were doing that for cars also. Cars also got assembled like that. It is not assembly. It is also how much hot the oil is, the hand checks it, it drops the egg, it ensures that there is no shell also. You know, it is amazing. I saw it. It's on YouTube, of course. But then it was amazing how people are using it. And it's like hugely productive and
and
highly cost efficient.
yes, and it has touched the medical industry as well.
Oh,
There
yes.
are few operations which are done by the completely robotic setup and no human intervention is there.
Hmm.
So, on the medical industry, they have touched, and for some laparoscopy operations, something like that.
Laparoscopy operations. There is this cancer nodule detection that I saw at Rajiv Gandhi Cancer Institute. They
Mhm.
are ensuring that there are some nodules which normal machines cannot identify, which are in the body. The stage
Right.
0 cancer. Okay, it doesn't get identified by ultrasound. So what these machines do is they do a scan of the body and they identify those minuscule nodules and they get them, fish them out of the body. Of course, they give them the location so the doctors can put a wire around them and they can surgically remove that small nodule also. That's the benefit. So the ones who, so I think this slide is a great discussion about how people, the older generation folks would generally look down upon technology saying, oh my God, you are taking away the human element. But if we have to change our paradigm of saying that, you know, how can we use it to our advantage? And I keep repeating this, is something that we should be our approach, that how much benefit can we take from it? Keeping in mind that this is not snubbing our intelligence. Whereas, I mean, it's funny that people don't wear a watch nowadays. And when you ask them the time, they will always scramble for their mobile phones. There used to be a time when people could just look at around and say, should be around 2. So it's a classic example of completely snubbing your intelligence and depending upon a machine. So as long as you know that your intelligence supersedes the machine's intelligence at any time, and you're able to make the machines work for you, then you are in a safe space. You shouldn't have to scramble for your mobile phone for everything or for your computer for everything. So that's just a philosophical jibe from my end before we move on to the next slide. May I?
So, ma'am,
Can
when
I
we
go?
talk
Yes,
about,
yes.
sorry,
Go ahead.
ma'am, when we talk about like we have Alexa or Siri. So,
Yes.
like for robotics, it has to be a device. It has to be something like a physical device. That is robotics, and
Not
like
necessarily.
is like we have Eco
Not
Dot and all that. So
necessarily.
that is not a robot, or is it?
Now, it is a robotic application, but it is not a robot. A robot is a fully functional, independent unit that just requires power and has the intelligence built into it. A
Okay.
robotic application would be Alexa. A robotic application would be, I can't, I mean, Alexa takes the cake. I mean, pretty much that is what it is. It's a voice enabled expert system, is what I would call it. I won't call it a robot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ma'am.
Just like in the phone, your phone also does the Alexa, has the Alexa feature because it primarily focuses on one dimension, which is voice, right? It doesn't have the rest of the dimensions or senses. Generally, when we talk about a robot, it has pretty much most of the sensations that the human beings work with. And that is my, again, limited understanding. This is one field that is, you know, evolving every passing day. Does it help?
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
Cool. Let's go to the next one. One of the things that I wanted to talk about is augmented reality and virtual reality. The reason why I skipped to this is because rest of the topics we already spoke about, when most of us, at least I, was not very clear about what is the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. Does anybody have a clear picture as to what it is, even though the material is on the screen? But just I wanted to check, does everybody understand what is augmented reality and what is virtual reality?
Not exactly, ma'am, because when I read about it, I feel I have understood. But yes, when it comes to explaining, there are a lot of things I would like to know about.
Okay. So augmented reality is basically overlaying 3D content in the real world. So you see all these 3D images on your mobile and videos and something which brings things to life. But for you to be present in that room and to experience it is virtual reality. So augmented reality and virtual reality are similar in many ways. But then if we had to talk about augmented reality, we can say that augmented reality simulates artificial objects in the real environment. And virtual reality is that environment. Okay, so let me give you an example. Have you seen those onboarding videos that nowadays people do, and you are told that we will give you a virtual tour? How many of you have taken those virtual tours? Nowadays, property dealers also do it, right? It feels like as if you are in a room, okay? And you get inside the room, you can move your head 360 degrees. If you go to the Samsung shops, they give you that machine, which this lady on the right hand side is wearing, right? And she can actually touch things. And she's not physically touching it, but that machine, which she's wearing on her eye, gives her the sense and the feeling of whatever is around her is real, right? Whereas in augmented reality, what happens is you are able to see the 3D items on your screen, etc. But you are yourself not present in that environment. You are an outsider. You are a bystander. It is generally, augmented reality is generally available on smartphones, tablets, and wearables, whereas virtual reality is through headsets and those screens that you wear on your eyes. So that's the difference. In one, you are a bystander, you're observing various elements unraveling in front of you, whereas in virtual reality, you are yourself present inside that environment. You can supposedly touch and feel and move and experience things in a much more intimate manner. It basically closes down what the real world is around you, and you are present suddenly inside an Amazonian jungle, or you are present inside a different floor of a different building, and your real environment doesn't matter at all. That's the easiest way to understand the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality. And because it is something that most of us are confused about, at least I can count myself as confused. I used to be. I did read a beautiful article on this one, which gives, it's a white paper actually, gives a very good idea about the differences between virtual reality and augmented reality. I have put it in the additional readings. I'm going to send that out to you guys as a PDF. You can enjoy it, read it, and if you have questions, we can take that later. Does this make sense, guys? I have oversimplified it, I know, but did it make sense?
Yes, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Cool.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's move. We have more material to cover today. And I love the idea that this is interactive, because this topic without interaction would be very boring. Chatbot, all of us know about it. Every bank site, every Make My Trip, every site nowadays has a chatbot. What is it? It's like talking to another human being, but it is not really a human being. It is a computer program that has learned how human emotions work, what people like to listen to. It just mimics human behavior. It can be written, it can also be spoken, right? So do you really need to understand how chatbot programming happens and everything happens? The answer is no. We are simply going to look at how we can use chatbot as trainers. So first, let's understand in a very basic way how chatbot works. It is basically an output of artificial intelligence. We already saw it on our first slide that we discussed today. It takes help from machine learning and deep learning. Through machine learning and deep learning, it establishes various processes of understanding human behavior and responding. So that is how the programming happens, as to when somebody writes hi, the machine knows that it has to write back, hello, good afternoon, how are you doing today? Just for that response, it would check multiple things. It will check the timer as to which country this person is responding for. It will check the time. Is it post 12 o'clock? Is it before 5 p.m. in the evening? It will say good afternoon based on that. So all these processes are encoded for the machine through deep learning and machine learning. right? And then there are standard scripts that the chatbot can have the intelligence to write back. For example, you were saying, I need to know when my premium insurance premium is due. The chatbot knows insurance premium due. These three are keywords. It goes, it searches, finds your name, finds your detail, comes back with a date, or asks for more information. You interact with those chatbots, so keep throwing more and more questions. It's basically refining the response that it would like to give you so that it's more accurate. So all these outcomes it prepares through NLP, of course, language processing, predictive analysis, and sentiment analytics. So at times you would write, this is not making sense, I am frustrated. You will be surprised how the chatbot responds, because there is sentiment analysis also included. Yeah. So again, like I said, you don't really need to go into the science and the technology of it. Let's see how we can use chatbot to our advantage. I'm just doing a time check. Okay, 11:46. Cool. Now let's look at how we can use chatbots. We can use it in continuous learning through integration with LMS. We can also use for supporting learning processes. Chatbots can act as virtual guides or tutors. It can be a product tutor in case you are, let us say you are teaching a specific software to people. Chatbots can be of great assistance. It can evaluate outcomes. Whereas when you are teaching somebody a certain process of doing things, let us say you are teaching how to create a standard operating procedure document, or you are teaching somebody how to audit a certain practice. This is a process tutorial which you have built. The chatbot can help in when the person is getting stuck and they're trying to move to the next section and you've given an exercise and the person is not able to clear it. The chatbot can help give with hints. It can give feedback. Okay, you went wrong here, try this. So it is like a virtual tutor available. There are a lot of benefits for learners. There are people whom we meet in the classroom, and again, I'm going back to our conversation, which I keep going back to, that in an in-person classroom, there is a different set of people and there are different practices we employ to understand which learning method works for which learner. In virtual learnings, in most of the cases, we are not very sure about who is hesitating to ask for questions, who is not understanding but not letting you know that they're not understanding. How many people are really paying attention? The benefit of having a chatbot support is specifically for people who are either not with the classroom, they are slightly slow learners or moderate learners, or somebody who's shy, who doesn't like to ask a question. Now, be honest with me and say that in a classroom, when you are not able to understand everything really well, how many of you at one point give up? It's not making sense. I will read about it later on. Recording sun lenge, koi baat nahi. How many have done it? Because I'm sure I can raise my hand. I have done it. Yeah, you just check out. You mentally check out. What happens is when you have a chatbot support, which is helping you through the virtual environment, you are actually having a two-way conversation. You can ask questions and there is somebody who constantly keeps giving you messages. And when you are not responding to the tutorial or the material for a long time, it actually pops up saying that, would you like to pause the session? Would you like to take a break? Right? Would you like to revise something? Okay, do you want to resume this after some time? You have not been responsive for so and so amount of time. Would you like to pause the session? So it is like somebody being present with you. It becomes more fun. And it is also a high contributor to engagement quotient. So it's a great idea to have a chatbot monitoring progress of people. And remember, while it can act as an innocent tutor, it does have your learning stats at the back as to for a session, how much time you took, how many questions you did attempted in first go, second go, third go, you got it clear, how many times you had to repeat the assignment. It is recording everything. So you get valuable stats. Hanji Rajesh ji, you had a question.
मैडम ये बेनिफिट्स फॉर लर्नर्स कुछ ज्यादा ही आई थिंक चैटबॉट के फेवर में बोल दिए गए हैं. एटलीस्ट आई विल नॉट फील कंफर्टेबल. आई वुड नेवर. I have specially taken time off today from my office to attend your lecture. If you were a chatbot, I wouldn't have. I really couldn't have cared one bit. I've been missing all my research methodology classes, partly because Sundays I'm working and I am anyway doing PhD. But today especially took time off. I told my office I'm off for next 1.5 hours because you are there. You, the human being, that gregarious person. If I were to even get a slight idea, oh no, it's not Tina, it's a chatbot, it's a deep fake. Probably I won't come to this class. That's the difference. So आपने उसकी तारीफ में कुछ बहुत ज़्यादा ही बोल दिया, जो कि मैं अभी what baby boomer age का I'm not ready to accept that. और इसलिए भी कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि experts on economic experts also talk कि जब उनके सामने indices आती हैं या चाइना का डेटा आता है, कहता है I'm not willing to accept it. There's something wrong here. So that's why the benefits for learners, I think, अभी काफी exaggerated है. I'm comfortable with you, but not with a chatbot.
You are right. You are right. And I would attribute it to two elements. And I'm glad that you brought this up. I would attribute it to two elements. One, the reason why we are even talking about chatbots, we're talking about engagement, we're talking about all these things is because the workforce, the generational workforce has changed. We are not the same people who are in the learning phase right now. We, for example, you were there, even at my age, when we are learning something new, we are, I would not say an outlier, but then yes, we are not the 85% of the standard learning population today. The today's learning population, the millennials who've grown up with iPhones and tablets and less of human interaction, most having both parents working or parents divorced, for them, the best friend has been the machine. And for them, if you like, I'm going to repeat this example because I find it astonishing. Okay, there are a group of 7 or 8 folks every day in the evening walk. They finish the evening walk and they sit on 2 benches and they don't talk to each other. Everybody's on the phone. I find it surprising, but they find it very invigorating because they are in a group of 6 people, but they're still interacting with the machine because that is what they find more friendly. So the reason why I think the research and the benefits of learners is slightly skewed towards the generational learners is because that is how they are learning today. And like I said, I don't have a problem in being the outlier, but then we are not the 85 to 90% learners, the younger generation right now. We are people who are kind of make do with everything and we have our own ways of learning all our lives. Yes, please.
Before we go ahead, I won't take much time. Yes, since you're a human being, I can talk to you. Yes. And with emotions, I only feel that we may go so far away with this younger generation that return back to normalcy may be very difficult. That's all my fear is.
I would agree. And that's why, remember in the last slide, I was saying, till the time you know that you are not snubbing your intelligence and your social connections and everything else, and you are not letting machines rule your lives, we are okay. The day we are even scrambling for our phone for a simple statistic, for example, what time is it today? What are my appointments for tomorrow? It's my dad's birthday. It is my husband's phone number. It is my sister's, kid's birthday. If we are completely dependent on all informational machines, that is when the war is lost, like you said. It is difficult. But till the time we are retaining our intelligence and our acumen, and we are able to use machines to our advantage, we are good. I mean, that is what we should strive for. My personal point of view.
Point is, we are just not knowing how slowly it's happening. It's carbon monoxide. You just don't even know we are gone. So that's what's happening to us. Yeah. So anyway, let's proceed ahead. Otherwise,
yes. It's a philosophical conversation, but then I know where you're coming from. There are enough number of movies made on this.
Yeah. This old man is not up to the mark. He better be not in this class. Okay.
No, we absolutely respect all opinions. Benefits for organizations. Like I said, for me as a trainer, if I had to see, let us say, how Tina has been doing in her learning, I can use the stats that the chatbot throws to me as to how much time did she take in completing this chapter, what seems to be the weaker area, how many areas did she revise, how many did she skip? You can get those analytics. Now, as a trainer, we can look at analytics, we can look at dashboards, we can look at insights, but as an organization, what does a CEO look at? What does a department manager look at? What does CHRO look at? There's so many informations that right now depend, and I won't say right now, in fact, it used to be in the past, dependent on multiple people collaborating with each other, putting their reports together, running pivots, Excel, crunching, all of that, and then those results would come. There would be board meetings that are planned, and 3 weeks before the scuttling would begin, put everything together. There would be a training review there where we know, oh my God, 15th of this month, there's a training review. Let's prepare data. So that would mean that 15 days before, you have to work with your project management team. You will have to work with your backend team to pull out all data, put it together. So now with chatbots and other AI benefits, I would not only attribute it to the chatbot, but there are various other tools that are available to us that gives us faster results, more accurate reports, less of manual interventions, and quicker realization of return on investment. Why would a CEO invest in having a chatbot or a learning management system or anything else? They would do it, one, to free up time of everybody so that they can do the work they were hired to do and not less of administrative work. And second, to see benefits, tangible benefits. And that comes through return to investment. So when you are able to show that these are the benefits, this was the investment you have done, these are the short-term benefits, these are the long-term benefits, the justification of getting a chatbot implemented, and also to be able to simplify lives of learners as well as trainers and as well of other professionals outweighs the whole idea of still continuing the manual route. There are onboarding queries that people have. There are basic information that new joiners require. There are standard letters that all of us require in various stages of our life. There are various reminders we require. There are mandatory trainings that need to be completed. In all these situations, chatbots can be highly effective. Last but not the least, when we are talking about a learner's journey, I spoke about it briefly when I was speaking about benefits of learners. Any conversational learning is always more effective as compared to one-way information being provided to you. So now many of you will say, oh, how does that mean? Does that mean virtual training is not effective? So interestingly, we have a whole section today, and I'm happy that we are doing good on time. There is a whole section available where we are going to talk about how various people can use various types of e-learning, which will
अरे ऐसे हो
help
चुका है,
them.
हमारे यहाँ पे छज्जा गिर चुका है एक बार.
Yeah, which we can use, various people can use the type of e-learning that will help them take advantage of a virtual trainer as well as the information available. Yes, Rajesh. You raised your hand? Okay, can't hear you. All right, having said that, now let's go to gamification. Okay, chatbots and gamifications are by essence different. They're all outcomes or offshoots of AI. But we are talking about gamification as something which we all trainers strive towards, and that is learning with fun. And how does the fun get introduced is when you teach something as the form of a game instead of a monotone of information or paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs and paragraphs of text, or a barrage of videos, or a barrage of PowerPoint presentations, white papers. So instead of that, if you make the learning experience as a game, depending upon the population you're trying to interact with, it can be a very pleasant experience and highly learning experience. Would any of you want to take a stab at why gamification works better? What is that one thing that allows, other than having fun, what is it that one thing that puts gamification separate from storytelling, from chatbots and other ways of learning? Anybody?
It helps us bring out the innate nature of the person. So like for like sports or games is the innate nature of bringing about the competency or the leadership or how a person would react to a suppressive condition or a challenging condition situation, how he or she would manage the team, how his responses would be to different situations. So those are some of the minuscule things that I understand. And how
So
the
you were
about also
saying the
about the quick
primal
response.
instinct kicks in, right? You were saying the primal instinct kicks in, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Is gamification always talking of digital, or like is role play a gamification? Role
Sorry?
play?
No, role play is not a gamification. We are specifically tagging gamification to digital. But then what you were saying, role play is again scenario-based learning. It is similar to gamification, but we won't call it a gamification because it doesn't involve any digital media.
So
And
they
does
don't
Gaby,
have,
does it have an element of competition and a reward
Yes,
gamification?
yes, yes. What else?
Ma'am, gamification also allows to try different things. Maybe in first attempt you're not able to succeed, then there is another chance to succeed. So
What
it
else?
gives a hope that
When exploring new skills or talents.
Yes, yes. What else? I still haven't got my answer.
I think the only stab I'll take is, as he said, you can fail without others getting to know that you have failed and keep trying.
Is this
Anyone
not the
else?
virtual? Is not this the virtual feel you get when you are playing, and the mental stimuli or the cognitive
Yes.
process and effect on the cognitive, say the cognitive impact itself?
It is very close to the response I was looking for. In gamification, you get to use your senses. Okay.
Yes, yes, yeah.
Senses. You get to see, you get to hear, you get to react, your primal instinct. All of that happens together. So I remember this compliance training, and I was like, compliance training? They made it a game, okay? But they did. And I said, okay, it's a mandate. I have to try this game now. I was not honestly in favor of it. For me, compliance training is very boring. You keep going through the slides and you keep finishing it. And when you finish, you are done. That was me, okay? So I went into this because now it's a mandate. I have to try it. So this game put me into this jungle, okay? It's an Amazonian jungle in which there are so they keep telling me what the various elements of compliance and computer security is, and then they put me into the game every time. So I am in this virtual reality environment, and I'm wearing this strange costume. Okay, they made my avatar in a certain way. So I'm going. Okay, I can see that I'm walking through a jungle, and then I'm trying to open a door. And the moment I'm trying to open the door, there's this question that comes up. Okay. And while the question, suddenly something comes and, snatches something away from my hand and runs away. So what I'm saying is that when you go into gamification mode, what happens is all your senses become alert. You're not only listening or seeing, all of the senses, 5 senses that we have. Advanced games actually give you a sense of smell. I don't know how many of you have seen those 5D, 7D movies nowadays that have come. I have experienced till 3D. I haven't tried the others, but the ones who have experienced it say that they can actually smell stuff. They can actually feel vibration under their chair. So they're actually in that environment, right? And so your response and your ability to embrace the learning is natural. So it is basically a psychological manipulation of having learning, which is much more effective, much more efficient, and long lasting, because it works with the neuron pattern, and it makes you learn not in a way that the learning source is external. It is learning by doing. Like you said, that there are multiple ways to fail, and you can explore all of them without everybody knowing, and then oh, this is the right way to do it, which you might not get in a real life environment. You might just get one shot at it. Whereas in a virtual environment, you can try various things. Yes, please.
Madam, simulators have been around for a long time now for air aviation, submarines. So can we say they were actually the precursors of gamification?
Of course they were. Of course they were. But they were kind of, what should I say, reserved for I won't call the word elite, but then they were reserved for certain branches of science or professions where people would be getting real access to it. And now those sandboxes are available for everybody. I remember there was this financial simulation I had once done in a leadership program, which actually cleared a lot of doubts about financial bookkeeping that I couldn't clear running through all my books, no matter how many number of times. So nowadays they're called various names. They are called games, they're called simulators. Some people call sandbox. Some people also called, test environment. But this is all a way of teaching people in a more efficient manner. For all of you to understand how exactly gamification works, it is important for you to know what are the various elements. Again, guys, you don't need to remember this, but it is helpful to have a look at the various elements that come into play when we talk about gamification. So in case you would like a detailed explanation of any of these elements, you can go to the enough information available on gamification, but I'm just trying to put the pieces of the puzzles together for everybody to understand that what really these elements are. First piece of information, there are 9 elements that we are going to talk about. The first one being a master narrative. What does a master narrative really mean? It is the story that holds your entire game together. Okay. So one of the biggest advantages of having the story in place or the narrative in place is that you can control how the entire game is going to pan out and where are the checkpoints where you would like to have other elements introduced. So when we talk about a master or a narrative, master narrative, we can also call it a story, and it maps the objective of the learning journey, and it crafts a real and relatable experience to learners. I'm reading from our text material, so you guys don't have to take notes. It's in the book. Okay. All right. What's the next element we are going to talk about? The next element is challenges. Many of you already have experienced it, so I don't really need to spend a lot of time. When we talk about challenges, these are your learning goals, which we basically convert into challenges into a game. The next element is levels. So there is one level that you need to finish, then you move to the next level. So this basically is your learning map and proficiency levels. And one of the interesting things that we do in levels is we put in various kind of checkpoints or questions that you put that if you clear them, then only you go to the next level. And in case you are unable to, the game is intelligent enough to throw you backwards for you to learn it all over again, and then come and clear the questions again, and then only you can move to the next level. So it's kind of reaffirming learning as to how the person is moving to the next level without clearing this level is something that is completely forbidden. Then we are talking about instant feedback. I just said that in case you are unable to clear something, the game is going to throw you backwards so that you know that these are the 3 questions out of the 10 questions I couldn't clear. So it will also give you an option. Do you want to go through the section all over again, or would you like to understand the right answer? And you can choose again. In some situations where the question is very critical for your next level, the designer or the programmer of the game can decide what decision tree will be followed at that point in time. Okay, the next one is scores. Everybody likes to see their progress, and it kind of gives a sense of self-satisfaction as to how I am doing. In some games, you also get comparative analysis as to what's your rank, what are people of your similar class or group or discussion board are doing as per your score. It is just competitiveness and creating more of adrenaline rush. So scores help. It's basically, if I had to say, it was a feeling of achievement that I'm progressing, I'm doing well. The next one that we all like to flaunt are badges. So in case you complete a certain level, you get a badge. The other day I've been listening to Audible. When generally I drive, I put on Audible and I listen. And nowadays with return to office, you have to drive to work and there are long hours. Instead of listening to music, I like to listen to a book. So that day, suddenly I got a notification. You've earned a non-stop binge badge or something like that. I was like, nice. And it also gives you option to put your badge on social media so that other people can know that her similar interest is Audible and she reads fiction or whatever, and other people can then get in touch with you. So it's like earning badges is like flaunting how much you've been able to achieve. The next one is, of course, rewards. Rewards can be points, rewards can be tangible items that you can win, which makes a game very rewarding. What's the next one? The next one is collaboration tasks. So when we talk about collaboration tasks, it is about allowing gamification to work with people. So when you have teams in which you work, in teams, people have the option to work with you, create groups with you, do a task together, and then progress to the next one. So it can be project work. In fact, by the way, I was talking to all of you about creating a project work that we can do, especially in the gamification bit, sorry, in the digital transformation bit. So I have submitted your assignment questions. They should be fun for you. And I've tried to keep the spirit as I promised, to keep it more research-based, realistic. So you will get the questions very shortly, but just letting you know that I tried to put in a little bit of an element there. All right, last but not the least are the leaderboards. What are the leaderboards? These are things that will give you an analytical insight as to how the progress has been, where all places have you stumbled, and how you have performed. If I compare to the average, are you top of the class? Do you need to focus on specific things? What does your performance really mean? What are your strengths? For example, if you do a gamified psychometric test, you will get to know what your personality is, and it will also tell you what are the few things that you can leverage, what are the few things you need to work upon. So all of that comes as an outcome of gamification. Yes, please.
Madam, is regarding badges, that point. I feel sometimes these badges are phony. The machine doesn't know. I'll give you an example. There are times I'm a runner, so, and also I go for cycling at times for cross training, or if there is some injury. The system is never able to recognize. So he keeps giving me great kudos. You ran very fast today and all. So if I were, and not only that, when I put it in my group, the group also, the kudos go up. Oh, you ran like a rocket, this, that. So if I were to start accepting these phony badges, any one of us, we are fooling ourselves, and people do it. You know, you don't complete a race, then you flaunt your medal, bite it, and do all that. So I feel this, the badge part of it is, we should be careful about it. Here again, we are allowing ourselves to feel good when we know we are not good. So that's where important to be realistic. And quite often these badges are given so that you keep using that application. You know, I have often found there's no substance. I have skipped a race. I never ran the race. Due to some reason it happened, but it's still giving me a badge. So I'd like to therefore caution that we should not get, it's like carbon monoxide poisoning. You keep thinking it's too good, it's not so.
So
I partially would like to add my experience too. I also use a lot of audibles, and sometimes I'm doing a lot of multitasking along with that. And once it happened that I heard almost 3 books consecutively for 3 days, and finally I got a badge that, oh, your listening skills are very good and you've completed 3 books in 3 days. But the reality is I could listen only 40 to 50% on each day while I was doing something else. So,
yes.
There is, this discrepancy which is
yes,
there.
There is. And that is where, if you forget about this, if that is where as a trainer, and while using a software, when you're designing a game, it will depend upon, for example, let's take this example, that you didn't run a race and you got a badge. Now, as a trainer, if you're designing your game, remember, you can design your game. So the learning management systems nowadays give you the tools to design your game. Now, you will be asked a question while designing your game, that if you have to give a badge, what are the few things you want to check? The more data points you will include, the more accuracy of the results will be there. For example, if you had to check whether a person is a night owl, you get this badge, right? People who study all through the night owl. You will have to make sure that the person logged in at certain time, logged out at certain time, how many days in consecutive they have done it. You know, the machine's accuracy can only come from the number of data points we allow the machine to reference. Now, remember, how these gamification softwares are designed is, the more and more reference points and data and more complex you make your program, the more and more money you will have to spend on the license. So when you pick up a simple license, which allows you to design a basic game, it will not reference that many data points. When you would really want it to give you outstanding accuracy, that is where, one, your license cost will be higher. Number two, your understanding of data points and how the machine works has to be outstanding to be able to get accurate results. Now, are you saying, or am I saying that Audible is not investing in that? They are not providing accurate badges? Maybe, just for the reason of encouraging people, like Mr. Rajesh said, to continue using the app. There are a lot of ways where people just want to, say, oh, good job done, keep giving those instant gratification without realizing that we are not from the generation that requires those instant gratifications. But it's a way of kind of pushing people forward. So the answer that both the scenarios that you brought up are very real. We experience phony badges. We see, "Arey, maine kuch kiya hi nahi hai, badge de diya mujhe." They send you a scratch card. They say, okay, get this, get that. It is the way of pushing people forward. Is it always accurate? No. Will human intelligence always trump the intelligence of the machine? Yes. And how we interpret the data, are we interpreting the data that we are receiving from machines blindly without looking at the outliers? That is where our intelligence should supersede the machine's results. Does that provide, it's not really a response, but it's just that my point of view. So that's how you can benefit from gamification. And also, I wanted to talk about various levels of gamifications that are possible. You do not jump into gamification all in. You do not go ahead and implement everything in gamification. And again, this is present in the book, so all of you can concentrate and just observe. If you see, level 1 is partial gamification. Level 2 is game-based learning. Level 3 is learning paths or learning boards, as more popularly known. And then there are portals that you can develop. So when you're beginning the digital transformation of your learning journey in an organization, will you go ahead and jump to level 4? The answer is no. You begin as partial gamification. What does that mean? That means that you go ahead and implement quizzes, various kind of assessments which are online, which is fun for everybody, and it is also easily adaptable. In level 2, when you see that people have accepted and have grown an appetite for various kind of quizzes, activities, they are accepting the idea of doing these e-learning courses, that is where you convert these things into games. Just like I said, that earlier we would do this onboarding online trainings. Now they have changed them into these games that people can use. After that, let us say that there is somebody who requires to learn data science and other typical courses which can be delivered online and can be provided as a bundle of various different training programs interlinked together. That is when you put in a learning path. That essentially means that it is not a combination of different games. It's a blended approach where there is one game that you finish, then you change over, you do some quizzes, you do some assessments, and then you move on to the next level where the game changes based on the learning path. So how you are able to create this learning path is by having absolute clarity about learning objectives and also building in checkpoints as to how the progress of the learner is. If you do not know how to breathe underwater, if I take you into deep water, just because you have completed that course, you will drown. So it's important to know how the learner is, what the learner's appetite and speed is. Based on that, the learning path needs to be defined. So that's your level 3. Final is when you put everything together on a portal, when people no longer required to go into piecemeal approach, they can go ahead and select the game, the assignment that has been provided to them or the course that they're required to take, and everything there is available in the form of micro-learning, social learning, there are discussion boards, there are chat groups, everything, all the aspects have been adapted and accepted by the learning group. But to reach level 4, you have to go through level 1, 2, and 3. Does it mean that it has to be a linear approach? Not necessarily. You can do 1 and 2 together, then you can do 3, and then you can do 4. You can do 1, 2, and 3 together, then you can do 4. Or you can simply do 1, 2, 3 together, and then you can do 4. It depends upon what kind of a learning requirement you have and what is the hurry of getting results. Based on that, you can choose your model. All right. Let's
Question,
move
madam,
to,
please.
yes,
Just
please.
one question on this.
Yes, please.
Madam, is this gamification by any chance being used by the corporate world to even promote people, your performance in games? Is it by any chance being used for your appraisals and promotion? If that is so, maybe I don't quite agree. It's a dangerous trend. Is it being used?
No, not for promotions, but yes, to tell people how the performance management system works, we do trainings which are gamified. But to evaluate people on gamification, that is not something that I've seen solely, wholly happening anywhere.
Ma'am,
Yes, Faiz. Sorry, please go ahead.
Ma'am, level 4. Okay, go ahead, please.
Sorry, please continue. I'll speak after.
No, I want a bit clarification on the level 4. I'm not very clear on that.
Okay, ma'am, my question is that are we going to see any sample of the games that is used in the corporate?
Yes, I have an additional document which is 6-7 good examples. It's slightly longish, but it's a link that you can click and you can see the various examples available.
For like performance in the corporates, etc.
Not performance in corporates. There are various kind of examples, but if you need specifically performance management, etc., I can look for some examples and send.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. If
Sure.
possible, I'll request you. Thank
Yes, Faiz. Let me ask me the question. You were saying that level 4 is not clear for you. Okay, let's hear what level 3 meant for you. Let me understand that, and then I can extrapolate it.
See, level 3 is definitely one step ahead, right, on the learning part. So talking about one assignment will completed, then another assignment goes on. So my knowledge and experience and moves to the next level, right? How does level 2 or level 3, learning part been collaborated? That's not very clear.
Okay, so again, let's go back. Let's begin with level 1. Partial gamification means you do the classroom, you do everything, then you come back, you do some quiz, you do some online courses using computer interaction. That's partial gamification. Okay. Now you take the same audience and you tell them, hey guys, there was this virtual training that we did. So you had to go to multiple places to finish your training. Now we will just complete the entire training through a game. Okay. Now that's game-based learning. Once you've done that, level 3 is about the entire learning path. So let us say that Tina is a trainer who does trainings on soft skills. Okay. So she started with partial gamification of soft skills, where you teach the soft skills, you come back, you do an assessment where you have to say the words in the way. So for example, somebody has written challenges. So I will have in the game, I will have to say challenges. So the machine will listen, give me a score. So that's partial gamification. After that, Tina says, okay, guys, now we are not going to do multiple 2-3 things. Let's go and do the entire thing through a game. So the game begins, the virtual bot tells how to pronounce, how to do things, it gives examples, then say, okay, you try now. So now it's a game. So I say the words and then the game evaluates me. This game is over. Now, Tina has to do the next training, which is different than soft skills. Now it is about compliance and audit controls, etc. So that training would be different training. So if I have to say that Tina's trainee has to reach full productivity in 10 days, she needs to complete these 3 trainings. So soft skills, there is compliance, and then there are audit regulations. So the soft skills I have made into game-based learning. The compliance piece will also need to be a game-based learning. And then the audit controls have to be game-based learning. When you put all these 3 together simultaneously, one after the another, then after the another, it becomes a learning path. So the trainee first completes one, gives an assessment, which is again online, takes on the next one, finishes that, takes on the next one, at the end gets a certificate. And then there is, of course, the trainer available who is checking the progress of the person. And then the person is said, okay, you're ready for production. That's called a learning path, which is dependent on the objectives. Now, This is all simple interaction with the machine, doing online videos, etc., etc. There isn't an element of learning on the phone, learning on the tablet, learning on YouTube, learning here, learning there. When you implement your entire learning path along with the options of learning through micro learning is basically learning through small bursts. Social learning, which is like one trainee, there are 10 or 12 trainees in the classroom. They are doing projects together, which is online. All of that, when it is put together on a website or a portal where people are completely doing SDT, which is self-directed learning, and only reaching out the trainer when they're stuck with the portal and nothing else, for nothing else, no other learning needs. That is when we are saying we have truly reached level 4. Does it help?
Pretty clear, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yes, Surendra, go ahead.
Can we say these 4 levels as a 4 cycles of Cole's experiential learning, or is it each level is a equivalent to the Cole's 4 levels of that experiential learning?
You are right. You are right. It is very similar to Cole's various levels of learning evolution. And Surendra, if you don't mind, for people who are not aware with the concept, quickly just go to Google, find a link and paste it in the chat so that people can also relate to it, please.
Yeah, actually, all of us, we are aware about Cole's learning cycle, which we have
Okay,
learned
you
in
must
our
have learned it
previous
in some other
semesters.
subject. Okay.
Previous semesters. So just I want to relate this all 4
Yes.
levels with that Cole's
No,
4
you are right.
cycles.
I'm sorry. I was not
Yeah.
aware that you guys are already aware of it, because generally what happens if somebody throws in a new concept, other people get confused. But I'm glad that you brought it up. Thank you. Okay. Can we move to the very friendly and aware topic of e-learning now? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
we don't know which is that.
Yes.
There you go. E-learning. Okay. We have limited time. We're almost out of time, but this slide will not take a lot of time. Okay. So if I had to say that all the things that we've been discussing about continuous learning and various artificial intelligence tools, all of this at the end is put together and presented to people in the form of electronic learning, or as affectionately called e-learning. I think in the last 2 years, this is something that we have heavily relied upon, but it is important for all of us to also understand that even e-learning has 4 or 5 ways in which it appeals to the audience. Now, let us look at the most basic e-learning. It is about knowledge databases. There's a lot of information available, which is put together, available for accessibility. It is slightly traditional in approach. It has very moderate interactivity. There is an index you can click, you can find out this information, which you can further click, then you can go to other information. That is what it is. Knowledge database. Now, if you have to take that one notch higher, it is online support. So you got the knowledge, you're confused, you would still like to clarify. You go ahead to various forums, you go to chat rooms, you go to bulletin boards, then there is instant help available, you use that. It is more interactive than knowledge databases, but it is still pretty rudimentary. It is not the most evolved form of e-learning. It does allow to ask more questions as compared to what you would be allowed in when you are dealing with knowledge database. Now let's take it to the next level. Now there is something called synchronous learning, synchronous training, and then there is asynchronous training. What does synchronous training really mean? Let's skip the definition. Let's straight away look at the various types of tools that are synchronous learning. There are virtual classrooms, which we have done so many times in the pandemic. Then there are online chats. Then there is video conferencing. Then there are webinars, live sessions. There are whiteboards where everybody is typing together. Then there are collaboration tools. And then there is audio conferencing. These are all examples of synchronous training. And in essence, asynchronous training is nothing but a virtual live trainer where everybody can talk to the trainer and also talk to each other. Now, look at the disclaimer that I have given at the bottom. It is not easy to get a group of people to commit to attending a training session at the same time. So this is where asynchronous learning can help. And how does that help? It basically allows a slightly more traditional approach where you have a self-paced learning, so you can do some of the stuff yourself. It's network-based. It can also allow people to access the trainer, ask questions through emails, interact with the group, and it allows the freedom which you right now are having right now. I mean, there's a huge batch, right? Not everybody is present here. The session is recorded, they get access to it, they're able to talk to the trainer later on if they are unable to do it at this point in time. It allows more freedom, more flexibility. And the most beautiful thing is that you can seek clarification through various kind of forums available. You are not restricted, oh my God, the trainer is not available after this point in time. So what is the challenge for asynchronous training? Even that has a challenge. And that challenge is different kind of people have different familiarity with technology, and we've read about generational workforces. Not everybody also gets an instant feedback from the instructor. So like I gave that example, many people check out. They're out of the loony bin, they're somewhere else when the session is happening. And that is where blended learning can fix the inconvenience. What does blended learning do? Blended learning combines synchronous and asynchronous modes. It allows self-paced modules. It allows a virtual trainer. It also allows recorded sessions. It also allows the training program to be so holistically developed, including games, interactions, WhatsApp groups, social media, additional reading material, white papers. It provides a holistic approach of learning design where people can learn in the best possible manner. So that means you're allowing people to do their self-paced modules, but you are not taking a linear approach that only if the self-paced modules are finished can you attend the class. No, everything has happened simultaneously and people can pick up whatever pieces of learning, whichever they would like in whatever order. So that's the solution of blended learning. Most of us have been using the blended learning all this time while helping our learners during the pandemic, and it has helped immensely for everybody. Now, one of the things that I have, and I know we are out of time, but I still want to touch upon one thing. We have spoken about various learning interactions, and I keep using the word moderate or limited. What does it really mean? There are 4 types of learning interactions. First one is passive. Second one is limited. Third one is moderate. And fourth one is simulated. It's there in your notes, so don't have to worry. It's in the text material. I just wanted to put it in a graphical form that all of you realize that what is a level of interaction and how do you define it. This will be immensely useful when you are looking at a different group of people. Let us say you have a group of 25, 30 people whom you have to train as a trainer. It will be great to understand whose interaction is what kind and what they prefer. And you can go with the majority. Passive is no interactivity. So your content that you're using is that you don't want people to interact at all. It's images, it's animations, it's basic questions, it's just PPT, nothing else. Then there is limited interaction, where you can click on a graphic, okay? And then when you take your mouse over something, something else opens up. Then there is interactive assessments that you can put. And of course, there is audio and video. That's limited interaction with the audience. Now, let's look at moderate interaction. Here we are talking about complex interactivity and customization. Do you remember I spoke about the gamification? In gamification, various people progress at various paces. And the game is so intelligent that it will progress in that decision tree based upon the learner's learning speed and the requirement of revision of topics along the way. So it has animated videos, it has complex simulations, it has scenario-based cases. And then there are customized audio recordings also. Then the final one is simulation, the one that I spoke about, where you get to do a complete onboarding exercise or you get to do a complete financial bookkeeping as a part of a simulated environment. Here you are learning real time. If you're failing, you're having to do it all over again. You cannot move forward unless and until you have completed it. You use technology. You wear those masks or anything else that is being provisioned by the organization, you use that. Generally, simulations always have 3D effects. And it has all the elements that we spoke about in the earlier three. There's passive elements are there, limited elements are there, moderate elements are there. Yes, Raj.
Madam, can I understand from this that the what is in between the lines is it also depends on your video shyness or comfort level with others, that you choose either passive or limited? Because I've seen many times even professors don't come up on video, or many
Yes.
times learners, when they are asking questions, they don't come up on video, citing reasons of bandwidth and all those things. Some are honest enough to admit I'm video shy. So is that also an inherent reason why people choose one of these methods of learning?
Yes, it depends upon the audience with which you are working. So as a trainer, we should be intelligent and intellectual enough to understand what will work. If we are working with a primarily generational workforce and a baby boomers workforce, we would prefer to go with passive interaction because we know they will not be interested in asking questions or interrupting. They would prefer to just go by basic quiz, basic graphics, basic animations. Beyond that, they can get overwhelmed. If you have a mixed group and you would like this to be interactive, for example, this session specifically, I wanted it to be very interactive with people and get inputs from people because this is a topic which thrives on interaction. Otherwise, it can be very boring. So that intelligence has to come from the trainer while designing the material as to what kind of interaction they would like to involve. For example, if I have to try and teach anybody the art of painting, can I teach it through PowerPoint? I cannot. It has to be a simulated environment for people to know what is a brush stroke, what is a paint stroke, what is a straight line, what is a curved line. All of that, if we have to teach online, it has to be highly simulated. So it depends upon the trainer's intelligence as to one, what the audience is, two, what the outcome requirement is. Based on that, you choose your level of interaction while designing content.
I'd only like to say here, I had attended one course which was supposed to give us certification. It was by the Skills Development Ministry. The instructor was very clear, whether you like it or not. If your video is not on and you're not there, your attendance
Pannu
is
sir.
not
Pannu
counted.
sir must have done it, right?
Yes, madam.
Yes.
So
I
that's
have
why
done
it's not
that
a
course.
question
Yeah.
of your choice and my choice. The instructor can insist. Please.
Yes, the
want a
instructor can
certificate?
insist. Of course. Of course.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Here we come to the end of the session, guys. I'm going to leave you guys to have more fun on Sunday. I have put a couple of items here. One of them is interactivities in e-learning, which will give you an idea about how to decide level of interactions while designing e-learning content. I'm going to send you a white paper on virtual reality and augmented realities for soft skills training. I also have an item on chatbots, which will help you in assisting teaching language. I have a surprise in your textbook. Some of you might have looked at it already. After the summary of your, after the additional reading segment, there is a list which we have compiled. And I thought it would be very boring to go through in the classroom. I would encourage you to go through the various challenges of e-learning and some proposed solutions that you can look at. And the one that says happiness at workplace, it actually talks about how people can, what are the 10 different ways why learning is very important for millennials. I understand that it is slightly away from the module topic, but the 10 benefits that are given there as to why the millennials think learning is very important for them has a large bearing upon how you design content and how you design continuous learning for you people. That's all I had today. Please go through additional learnings, have a lot of fun. It's important. It will help you, understand the topic better. Look at the text material. It is not too overwhelming. After this lecture, it should be very easy to go through. And of course, there are questionnaires. I will see you on 24th again for 1.5 hours. And this time we'll be entering into module 5. Thank you, everybody. Hope you had a great time.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Thank you,
Ma'am.
ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.